The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, keep you from drifting away.
Why, hello there. This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Welcome to my show. To my left is Terrence Doran. You can call him Terry. Hello there. Thank you for
Patty.
coming on to my show. And my guest, switcheroo, over to my other left is Kylee Baumle. That's how you pronounce your last name, Baumle?
That's right.
Oh, good. Kylee is an author, freelance writer, and photographer, and many other things as well. Good, that is.
I hope so.
Wow.
So, where are you from?
I'm from Northwest Ohio, over in Paulding County, just across the line.
Mm-hmm.
Born and raised there. Didn't get too far from home. In fact, I live just about 3 miles outside of the little village that I grew up in, Haviland.
Mm-hmm.
And we've lived in the home where we are now for 40 years this year.
Oh my gosh.
You have kids?
2. We have 2 grown daughters, Kara and Jenna.
You don't look like you're old enough to have grown daughters.
Oh, I have grandchildren.
Oh, my stars.
I have 3 grandchildren. The oldest one will be 5 in September.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
And he's going to kindergarten?
She will be, I don't think she's going to kindergarten this year because her birthday's in September, so that I think
has to
they're
wait
going to
another
wait
year?
another year.
Ah.
Yeah. Not sure.
So, as you were growing up, were you always interested in nature?
Actually, no.
No?
No. I was more of a bookworm kind of person. I liked reading a lot and not really active outside that much. Now, my mom was a full-time gardener, so or lifelong gardener, and she would have me help her in the garden. So I would do that, and my grandma too. But as far as me being a nature lover, I wasn't really. That came later.
Mm.
What got you interested in it? From a little interest to obviously your life's work now.
Well, it's the whole butterfly thing started with gardening, and how I got interested in gardening. In spite of my mother being a lifelong gardener, I really didn't have that much interest in it. I did have a 4-H garden when I was younger, but that was the extent of it. You know, I felt like I was working. I had 2 kids. It was just more effort than I wanted to put forth. I just didn't have the interest. So about 2000, 2001 maybe, my husband and I started geocaching. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, what's that?
It's a game kind of where you look for containers that have been hidden around. It's a worldwide.
Oh yeah, my daughter does
Yeah, and
that.
you use GPS to locate them.
Yeah.
So we got interested in that, and of course that got me outside. And I got interested in the wildflowers that I saw when we were in the woods, because a lot of the containers are hidden in woods. And so that kind of got me started a little bit. And then we got, I started gardening. My mom took me to a garden show, and it was like a switch was flipped. And then I wanted to garden.
So,
all that from that game.
Yeah, that's kind of where it first got started.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, where it got me outside, got me out of the house.
Yeah.
You know, gardening, once you begin gardening, it encompasses a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about the insects and the birds, and I mean, it's kind of hard to do one without the other.
Correct, yeah.
I've always been interested in photography. I've done that for a lot longer than I have gardening. So I just had new subjects to photograph when I started gardening and paying attention to the butterflies and the other insects and all the life that goes on in the garden. It's pretty fascinating, and I really do like to look at it up close, and I like to know the who, why, what, where, when. So I would photograph something, and then I would go in the house and look it up. You know, I would want to identify what it was I was seeing and then learn about the life cycle of it.
You do a lot of plant life as well?
I do.
Horticulture?
Yes.
What'd you learn that?
That's mainly what I do. The Monarch Butterfly grew out of that, but you know, I'm just an avid gardener.
You went to a lot of university, college, what?
When I graduated from high school, I went to IPFW here in Fort Wayne and studied dental hygiene, and I got my degree in dental hygiene in 1977, and then worked in New Haven, Indiana for years and years, and then I also worked at Salis Research here in Fort Wayne as a hygienist. So 30.
Which doctor?
Was Dr. Ellison in New Haven, yes, and then Salis Research also, which was another interesting job that I had.
Part of your life, yeah.
It
So
was.
fill us in, so to speak, with the hygienist. How long were you with them again?
Well, I was a hygienist for about 38 years.
38
something
years?
like that, yeah.
You must have been a wee woman to start a girlfriend.
Well, it was a long time ago.
So that's all behind you, and you now focus pretty much exclusively on your art and your gardening and
I did,
writing.
because I got busy, you know, busy doing the writing and traveling also to garden shows, and then the grandchildren came along, and so that I started focusing more of my efforts on the writing. Because I write for different publications also, as well as doing, this is my second book.
Can we hold this up?
Sure. Can you zero
You
in
get a
on
shot
that?
of the book.
Just turn
You want to hold it? You wrote this book, took most of the pictures for it. It's beautiful.
This is a very beautiful book. She's going to sign it later. But, yeah, isn't it beautiful? All these butterflies and all that sort. When did you really become interested in the monarch itself then?
It's an interesting story how I did get interested in the monarch specifically. My mom and I went to Delaware back in 2006. It was in September. And as we were driving there, we saw a sign alongside US 30 that pointed to the Flight 97 crash site. They had a memorial there for 9/11. And we decided on our way back we would stop there. So we did. And we went also to the little chapel that they had built there.
Yeah.
At that point, it was just a temporary memorial at the crash site. But then this chapel had been built just outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And there was a garden called the Peace Garden. And we looked around and spent a little bit of time there. And then we got back in the house or back in the car, and she held out her hand, and she had this monarch butterfly, a dead monarch butterfly, and she said, "Look what I found." And she'd found it there in the garden. And I looked at it, and it had this little white sticker on it, no bigger around than, say, the end of your pinky finger. And it had numbers and letters and a website and a phone number on it. So when I got home, I looked it up, and it took me to the monarchwatch.org website, and I learned that they have a tagging program that they do through the University of Kansas, and citizen scientists, which could be you or me or anybody who is willing to take the time and participate in it, tags the monarchs, and then when they're found, whether it's on the trip down to Mexico during migration or after they're there, you can report that, and then that gives them information about the migration.
Where in Mexico? You been down there?
Yes. My husband and I went to Mexico. It's in central Mexico, about 60 miles west of Mexico City, in the mountains. And we went down there the first week of March this year to see the monarchs. That was one on my bucket list. I really wanted to do that. So we went down, and we went to 2 different sanctuaries. There are several there that are open to the public. And got to see the monarchs where they are in the winter.
When they first, where do they first start? Do they first?
Well,
North
it's a
America?
cycle. It's a cycle, of course. The monarchs, like, let's just take it from right now. So there are monarchs in our gardens right now. The monarchs that are there now only live about 4 to 6 weeks or so. But at the end of the summer, toward the end of August, the monarchs that are emerging in your garden that you see will be the ones that migrate, that go to Mexico. And they will live a lot longer. Those monarchs will live 7 to maybe 8 months.
I mean, they make
And
it to
they
all
make that trip all the way to Mexico, up
I
to
thought they
2,800,
sort of-
3,000 miles or so, because
Oh my
they're at the
gosh.
northern range, they're in Canada. So they start there, and then they travel down through the U.S. and funnel through Texas to this very same location in Mexico, where they go every year.
It's funny how
Is
God.
there a reason that
Yeah.
it's Mexico
Well, it's
versus
just-
anywhere else?
It's just the perfect environment for
Environment.
them there. Yeah, the right humidity, the right
Yeah.
temperature, everything is just perfect.
It's like having a homing radar thing.
Kind of, yeah, because their
Animals do
antenna
have
have,
a- yeah.
we call them little GPS
Yeah, yeah.
locators in there. And
Yeah.
they don't understand exactly how they get there, but they take cues from the environment, the sun, magnetic force that the U.S. or that
The rain and everything. The
everything.
chill.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they use to get down there. But the interesting thing is that generation of monarchs has never been there before. Yet they go to the exact same location every
Any-
single year.
Any animal instinct,
Incredible.
like the lemons and the buffalo and all the others, they know where they're going. It's like built in. God put it there, and
Right.
you know.
I agree. I agree. Well, and they don't even have their parents to show them the way.
Oh no,
It's built in.
Yeah, their parents are dead. I
they're
mean,
on their own.
Yeah.
So
Oh
how
my
many
gosh.
generations until they get to Mexico?
oh, that same one, that
same
same
one?
generation
Yeah.
flies to
Ah.
Mexico. Yes.
And then they die, and they.
When they get to Mexico, they're in a state of reproductive diapause. When they come out in your garden, let's just say, let's pretend it's September and I'm in my garden and I see this monarch butterfly come out of its chrysalis. It's got one thing in mind, and that is to get to Mexico. It's not going to mate because it's in a state of diapause. Because mating takes a lot out of the butterfly. So it needs all that energy to get to Mexico. So it will fly that entire distance, and then they get down there, they stay down there until about mid-March. And as things warm up there, then they come a little bit more to life, and they will mate there. Then, in the spring, they will mate. And then they will begin the trip back north, until they can find milkweed, because they only use milkweed for reproduction.
That's milkweed
It's amazing.
is very, very special. We had a lot of that in our backyard and in the field where we were growing up in Toronto. And we had tons and tons of beautiful moths and butterflies. And, what's the difference between a moth and a butterfly? Do you
Well,
know?
moths are generally more active at night,
Mm-hmm.
butterflies during the day.
Right.
Um,
They eat cloth, don't they?
pardon?
Moths eat cloth.
Well, some do.
We found that out when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Not much comparison in the looks department, I'll tell you that. Between a
Oh,
moth
there's some
and a
beautiful
butterfly.
moths. In fact, I've got one in a
Yeah.
cocoon right now.
Really?
In my house. Yes.
How many do you have in the house,
monarchs?
monarchs?
Right now I have 50 that I'm raising inside in various stages of development.
Well, the
I've
moths
got-
in my house don't look anything like a monarch butterfly.
Well, I found the caterpillar. It was crawling on our house.
Yeah.
It's a Polyphemus moth, and they're huge. I mean, the
Yeah.
caterpillar is about that long, and,
Wow.
and it's as big around as your finger, bright green. And so I brought it in, and the very next day it formed a cocoon with the leaves.
Like an
oak
emerald
leaves.
color?
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yes. And so I'm not sure if it's going to stay like that over the winter, because that's how they winter over here, is in the cocoon. It's a little early for that, so I'm hoping that
Might
in a
come
couple
out.
of weeks the moth will come out of that cocoon. And if so, it's going to be
Big one,
it's going to be a big one, and they're beautiful.
aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of the silk moths like that are really
Silk?
pretty. Yeah, they call
Is
them
that what
silk
they call
moths.
them?
So there's a lot of different kinds of moths.
Oh
so
yes,
there-
just like there are
okay.
lots of different
Yeah,
kinds
yeah,
of butterflies.
right.
Yeah.
So, How long will you be studying these creatures?
Oh, until I get tired of them, which I don't see that happening. They're so interesting. I mean, I'm learning more about them all the time, and you know, that's what I like about gardening, is that you're never done. You know, you're never done learning. There's just always something more to learn all the time, and I think it's the same with the Monarch.
This one, you have another book out. We don't have it here, but what's that about?
My first book, which I co-wrote with Jenny Peterson, a good friend of mine, lives in Texas. We wrote Indoor Plant Decor, the design style book for houseplants. And that was in 2013, and it was actually one of Amazon's top 20 in its category for that year.
So both books are out in Amazon or
Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Yeah.
independent bookstores.
Etsy?
My Etsy shop, yes.
Really? You have a publisher?
Publisher is St. Lance Press in Pittsburgh.
So you've been
Wonderful.
busy with yourself, girlfriend.
I have been busy, yes.
Do your kids do what you're doing, or what do they do?
Our oldest daughter, Kara, she does raise some monarchs at her house too. She's a little bit interested in it. Not quite as crazy about them as I am, but she's got a 3-year-old little boy, and he enjoys watching all of that, and so she's teaching him, and she enjoys gardening too. They just built a new house, so she's got a whole brand new yard to plant.
Yeah.
And the other one is interested. She's got the older granddaughter, Hannah, who's 5. She lives here in Fort Wayne.
That's good.
And Hannah loves it when we do the butterflies.
Yeah.
So.
She's gonna love this show, man. I was gonna ask horticulture. You said I saw in here, not in here, but on your website about something that tall, and you're growing plants from horticulture, hydroculture. What's that?
Oh, are you talking about the tower garden?
Yes,
tower garden. Yes, that is actually it's not hydroponic, it's aeroponic growing, which is a little bit different, but you don't grow in soil.
Well, how do you maintain it?
Well, there's a solution of that you pour into the bottom of it, and then that water circulates up through the center and then runs over the roots, which are on the inside of the circular part that you
so
see,
it's
the tower part. Yeah.
So you got to keep electricity going, otherwise.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so nice. I love this book.
Thank you.
Besides their beauty, which is obvious, why are butterflies important to us?
Well, butterflies are just part of the family of pollinators. And I believe that every insect that there is has a purpose. And even though monarchs and other butterflies aren't big pollinators, they still have a purpose in doing that.
And here you can show the people the milkweed, which they feed off.
You want to hold it up?
Well, there are lots of different kinds of milkweed. Some are more familiar to us than others. I think when people talk about milkweed, they think of the common milkweed that we see in the ditches or swamp milkweed. Let's see, where's the common milkweed? Not sure where it is in here, but anyway, that's the one that we're right here. This is the one we're most familiar with, and that one is just finishing up blooming now. And then the other one that we have here that you'll see commonly is swamp milkweed. That's actually on the cover of the book.
Oh,
yeah, that picture was taken in my garden a couple of summers ago. That is in full bloom right now.
Oh.
And they're very different in how they look and how they grow. The common milkweed has the big wide leaves, and swamp milkweed has much narrower leaves.
Well, sometimes with the milkweed it feels kind of fuzzy.
Right, some of them are very fuzzy. The swamp milkweed isn't. Common milkweed, you'll feel a little bit of the fuzz on the underneath side. And then the milkweed that's called butterfly weed, it's the orange flowering one. That's the perennial plant of the year this year.
Is that up in Canada? I don't know.
Yes,
it is?
They have it there. The monarchs don't make use of that one as much. They will, because it is still a milkweed, but it doesn't have that milky
Doesn't
sap.
have,
That when you break a piece off, you won't find the milky
No
sap
white.
on the butterfly weed.
white.
But it's also very hairy, so we don't know for sure why they don't prefer that one.
Oh,
they
they're-
will still lay
they're
eggs on
picky.
it,
They're
but
picky.
they are picky, and they'll change from year to year. I find in my garden. Sometimes they'll use the common milkweed more often than they'll use the swamp milkweed,
Can
and then
you-
sometimes it's the other way around.
zero in on this? Which one's going to do it? You? Can you zero in on this? It's one of her bracelets, cuff bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the Monarch Butterfly on it. It's vegan leather.
Vegan leather.
Whatever that is. It must be some sort of
I'm
bark.
not sure how she makes those. That picture is actually one of the pictures I took, and the background of it is the common milkweed flower.
If you are interested in either book or this cuff, and there's other cuff bracelets as well with butterflies on them, you can be able to go to her website. But what's your website?
My website is ourlittleacre.com, and then I have an Etsy shop called Folio and Focus Company.
How do you spell that, dear?
The
Folio.
Folio, FOLIOAND, FOCUS, and ANDCO.
Right on.
But you can get to that from my other website too.
You got another website?
Well, the ourlittleacre.com. You can get to the Etsy shop from there.
So with this book, I don't know when this is coming out, but when are you going to be signing here in Fort Wayne?
I'll be signing at Barnes & Noble at Jefferson Point on Sunday, August 13th from 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I have to come.
Yeah, I hope you will.
Well, what day is it? August
It's a Sunday
13th?
afternoon.
Sunday.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
What's happening with the monarchs now?
Well, they've experienced quite a decline since the mid-1990s. We only...
Herbicides?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted problem, which in a way is a good thing because we can focus on different ways to help the monarch. It isn't just one thing.
Just
but
like with bees, they're dying out. Too.
right, and it's the same kind of issue with all pollinators. The use of herbicides has really affected the monarchs specifically because of the milkweed. It kills the milkweed. So there's been such a decline in their habitat.
Mm.
Oh,
I mean, if you don't have milkweed, you're not going to have monarchs.
So-
it's the only plant they use.
So we're trying to do here in Fort Wayne with Say Mommy Abby King, and she's trying to say she's planting milkweed. Do you have seeds to go with this?
Well, if you order it online, it does come with a packet of seeds.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So Terry, what's your final question?
You have a shop at your... I thought you said you sold this bracelet. Is that online?
Right.
or?
It's online.
Okay,
Yeah, it's an
okay.
Etsy shop. Yeah.
So how many more books are you on another book now?
I'm not.
Mm.
I just finished this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'll be another one. Although after I wrote my first one, I didn't know if there would be a second one.
Well,
And here
guess
we
what?
are.
Could you sign that for me?
I sure would love to.
There you go, dear. Thank you. Oh, you got your own?
It's beautiful, really.
Thank you. You know, I really enjoyed writing this book. It's work. It's a lot of work.
Sure it is.
Intense work. When I wrote it, I spent several weeks where that's all I did, was write. But it's a subject I love. And, when you're passionate about something, work is fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So while she is signing the
And
book,
how would you like me to make this out?
that for here to go? I don't know.
To Patty?
To Patty and Bob.
To Patty and Bob, and it's P-A-T-T-Y?
Yes, ma'am. Or Bob and Patty, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Want to be backwards. So this is going on towards the end of the show, and thank you so much, people.
Is there anything you want to add before we leave?
I just want people to think about their actions
Yes.
in regard to the environment. You know, and you're only one person, I know, but collectively, we do make a difference, whether it's for good or for bad. So I really would like for people to just consider their actions when they're using a pesticide or an herbicide. You know, do you really need to use
No,
that?
you don't.
And we need to accept a little imperfection. I mean, none of us are
Yeah,
perfect, and I don't think
that's a
that
good point.
our environment needs to be perfect either. Things are here for a reason.
We're supposed to be caretakers
Right.
of this earth, not destroyers. Unfortunately, we are doing that. But we have to start being more compassionate and understanding and start to rethink how we should treat our fellow man as well as our native flowers and bees and
Unfortunately,
Animals.
I think that we are heading that direction. I do think people are
some more
thinking
aware.
a little more about that than they used to.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, this is the end of the line, and I make a beeline. Thank you, doll.
Thank you for having me, Patty.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you, Tara.
it's really good.
And adios. See you. See you next week. Adios. God bless.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us all.